I was just so much more connected to the earth. And like love is just deep inside of me. Like you leave and you just don't know what's going to happen. And then when you land, it's like, oh, I just love these people in my life and the earth. And, you know, you just, when you launch, like you'll just get it. You'll get it. Okay, we're rolling. Hi, everyone.
Hey, what's up? What's
Welcome
happening?
to another episode of Hood Rat to Head Rap. Hood Rat
To head rap.
Hood Rap.
And the place to be. What happening?
Thank y'all. I don't know how often we are gonna record. It's actually quite challenging financially to record. I think people need to understand that Ebony and I work together.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, we run a business and we are entrepreneurs. I am technically like the face of said business, but I would argue that Ebony is as well. But it began with Ebony essentially being my manager and pushing me out into the world and ensuring that I got paid more than a livable wage, that I actually got paid my worth for the work that I was doing. Sometimes speaking at schools, and also livable wage, my worth. All of that language is very dehumanizing.
Yes.
Because I really, if I was being honest, I think I would have to sit and consider for a second, would I really be doing what I'm doing on a regular basis if I did not have to pay to live? Yeah. And if I didn't have to pay to live, I probably would just hang out with Ebony and East, my friends. I would roller skate around the house. I would have a massive garden, and I would make delicious food on a regular basis and maybe watch really bad TV still. But I don't think
the
that
really bad TV wouldn't exist anymore in order to allow for you to have the life that you want to have.
Facts.
Where you didn't have to work.
You know, I take that back, and I take that back of like livable wage and paid my worth. Ebony made sure that we could eat. Right? It made sure that we had a home, we had shelter. In an unfortunate society
you've made sure of that, babe.
No. You made sure that we had that as my manager, right? Like we worked together. So if it was left up to me, big schools were asking me to speak for $200, and I was like, oh, absolutely. I will speak for $250. And Ebony made sure that I was not paid $250, but was paid more than that, right? Was paid commiserate with my experience in an unfortunate racial capitalist society.
Yes.
So with that, what happens under racial capitalism, which is what this episode is about, is that if you speak out as a person, as a Black, queer, non-binary person, if you don't hold space for white feelings, if you go against the U.S. social order, the world order, right? If you contest with how the world is essentially like, you can have anything you want. It's a game, right? It's very Black Mirror. You can have anything you want if you just obey the state. You can be wealthy. Like, this is the things that they put in front of your face. The second that you go against that, right? The second that you move in the direction towards, I want folks to be free, and I also want to be free. I want to be able to tell the truth about what's happening in the world. You're discarded. So in many ways, that has happened to us. And a lot of it is because we are punished for speaking blatantly about a free Palestine.
But not only that, it's not that we're punished just for speaking out against systems of oppression or because we're too pro-Black or we're too radical. It is also because of the proliferation and the uplifting of white, right-wing, conservative narratives. And these major publishing companies, media companies, are a part of disseminating and distributing those podcasts, those artists, those people that they're responsible for financing a rightward drift, quote unquote, in U.S. media. So there is, again, a competition. White people are in a competition for resource with Black people, as they always have been since we made contact with them, when we became the resource ourselves itself. So I think the major thing is that this is a listener-supported podcast. So that's the T. And we're up against a major media landscape that is rewarding white people and white perspectives, even those that appear to be liberal, like the Call Her Daddy people or whatever, appear to be liberal on its face, ostensibly liberal, which I don't even think so.
No.
But have huge swaths of a major market called right-wing, white, racist
And
consumers.
if we were, I feel like maybe we should start this podcast by like sitting with our legs in the chair, cross your legs, and like
My legs
white
can't
people,
do that.
white women love to make themselves like very small. If we spoke like, hey guys, like how's it going? What are the things that we're like touching on today? Like you want to just discuss like trad wives and how the world is like so crazy. Maybe we would get a podcast
Or do Joe
deal.
Rogan. Yeah, because Trump and beer. And so I don't even know what them
Trump,
niggas talk
what does
about
he
because
talk about?
I don't even know what them niggas talk about.
Trump and beer.
Yeah, because of trans, those are not, it's like, what? Like, men good, women bad, DI. They're too woke. Everything's woke. We're woke. The woke liberal media, they're woke. I don't even
Sponsor Hood Rat to Head Rat.
And just to segue really quickly back, I love what you said about the use of the word livable.
Uh-huh.
And I'm also just interrogating my usage of the word conservative.
Mhm.
Conservative and right wing and right word, none of those are legitimate political stances.
None of them.
Those are just euphemisms and
Yep.
dressed up terms
Yep.
to say bigot,
Yeah.
racist, white supremacist.
And I just have to interrupt you really
fuck?
quick. You actually have been saying that for a long time.
Mhm.
I don't want to say that you haven't been saying that. You have been saying that for a long time. You said that white people get all of these words, blue
Mhm.
collar, conservative, a bunch, right?
Mhm.
So many more to literally legitimate their racism. They had
Yes.
to package it in a
Mhm.
way so they could justify it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is how we get a second Trump presidency
Mhm.
is that people say people should have their opinions.
Mhm.
Everybody should have their opinions. Their
Mhm.
opinion is that birthing people should not be able to abort their pregnancies. Their opinion is that they should just be able to move to Brooklyn and create high-rise apartments. Their opinion, it's like
Mhm.
all based on this, dare I say, lazy
Mhm.
rhetoric
Mhm.
where everybody just gets to have their opinion, which is so fascinating.
Mhm.
Because when we have our opinion that motherfucker should just be able to live,
Mhm.
then we are
Woke.
forced. No, but it's not even just that we're woke. We are then, there's a way
Punished.
to, it's a spiritual death, right? It's a
Mhm,
social
mhm.
death.
Yes.
People are saying now,
Mm.
and sorry, this is jumping into it. I'm gonna come back. I'm not
Yeah.
jumping into it completely. But people are saying they're deporting US citizens.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. How could they deport US citizens? They have been extracting, dispossessing,
Mhm.
killing
Mhm.
US citizens for a very, very long time
Yep.
so that they can maintain social order.
Mhm.
And that is what they do to folks who are outspoken,
Mhm.
who say the truth, right? It's
Mhm.
not a coincidence that the people that use social media to share the truth and are actually telling the truth on a regular basis, not in no liberal packaged way, you rarely see their content.
Yes.
You rarely see their
Yes.
content, right? They're rarely the folks that are receiving $125 million,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
from Spotify and Sirius XM. They are not the people who are sitting up here interviewing Chapel Roan, right?
Mhm.
They don't even want to be seen with such a person, right?
Mhm.
And
And Chaperone don't want to be seen with them.
and they don't care to know them,
Mhm.
right? Because that would completely ruin who she is or who she thinks she is.
Yes.
Right?
She said I'm a pop star. So
That's
what
it.
would I be doing
Why
with
would I care about
a
y'all?
lowly activist?
Why would I care about
I'm
y'all?
not an
How could I
activist.
know so many things? I'm a pop star. I've
Mhm.
already made it. I don't need that.
Mhm.
Okay, watch. I'll wait.
And
I'll
that's
wait.
and that's the thing. It's like not only are people who are radical being punished for their views, I will say Black people who are radical
Mhm.
are being punished for their views and not given opportunities as a result. But the cold part is that the parroting of the Black radical tradition, the parroting
Mhm.
of our views by white
Mhm.
liberals or white progressives on social media
Mhm.
garners them
Yes, talk about it.
opportunities
Talk
and
about
money.
it. Talk about it. In the same ways that how they parrot AAVE garners then opportunities and money, right? Like that bad baby person or whatever, her black partner with who we still don't know who the hell that person is, but Alabama beat Barker or whatever. They both was fighting over him or whatever, but we still don't know who that nigga is. He had a White Lives Matter shirt on.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Hell, he had that Kanye shirt on.
Yes, he did. The Kanye.
That's that
White
Kanye
Lives.
shirt.
Yes.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the landscape. We've been doing this podcast for 8 years now.
8 years. Wow.
The landscape for podcasting has changed.
Yes.
There's been an explosion in the podcasting
Everybody
industry.
got a podcast, Mike.
Everybody got a podcast. When we first started, motherfuckers wasn't really having podcasts like that. It was still podcasts, but it wasn't that popular. And this has always been an independent podcast. We've tried to get sponsorship. We have sponsorship sometimes, but we are incorrigible about our ability to say the truth and to say exactly what we feel. We're not necessarily going to be limited by a fiduciary relationship or a sponsorship relationship where you are expected to not just uphold or endorse the views of your sponsor, whoever that company is, but you're also limited in the things that you're able to say. So we're trying to keep this podcast listener supported. We're trying to keep this podcast independent as it has been for 8 years now. And the only way to do that is through your support. So consider becoming a patron, which will have the info for our Patreon in the description of this podcast. Or you can donate to us directly, a one-time donation, if you can.
You can support the Patreon, Venmo. You can send to Erica-Hart, ERICKAHART, ERICKA-HART.
However you want to do it, get in where you fit in. This is incredibly difficult work to do when you don't have the money to do it. So we do it amidst financial sacrifice, but we also do it because Erica enjoys it. Just kidding.
Whatever.
Okay. We do it because we love y'all. It's the honest to God truth.
Yes.
And we do it because we think that inside of this very white supremacist podcasting media landscape that does value and privilege white people. And regardless of what they say, white people can say something quote unquote left, white people can say something quote unquote right, and it doesn't matter as long as the messenger looks a certain way. So if the messenger looks a certain way, or if the messenger is an adherent to whiteness or white supremacy, i.e. a lot of these black cis men in they podcasts, Charlemagne and fucking Joe Budden and all the rest of these niggas who kiss white people asses and suck white dick all that, they are the people who get the money. They're the people who Viacom and all these companies are interested in supporting and financing.
And I just wonder, similar to what the Chinese manufacturers are exposing, is what has you listened to Joe Rogan or Joe Budden or Alex Cooper, Call Her Daddy? Like, what has you watched those things? Because what is it contributing to you to where you feel like that's of more of value? Because the reason why they also have huge brand deals is because they get lots and lots of followers immediately.
Yeah.
Right? Like Joe Rogan, but also Alex Cooper. I mean, she was with some other girl and they took off like literally in their first venture of starting their podcast. They were getting paid upwards of over $100,000.
And these are people who are already wealthy.
Right. They were already working for like Goldman Sachs and all that kind of stuff. They weren't as wealthy as they are now. Right. They've gotten investment from further whiteness. But my thing is what has people invest in them in the same ways that you would invest in Gucci slides? Right. Like what has you see the value in that and not the value in some of these other podcasts that are out here really busting their ass to bring the truth, right? Like what has a podcast with Joe Budden discussing really tiny views of what manhood looks like? Why is that more interesting?
Don't require no thought.
Nothing.
No research. Yes. Nothing.
I just wonder like what is the driving factor? For me, I'm listening to so many different podcasts while I work out that work my brain, right? That require me to think, that make me want to sit down and take notes in the middle of lifting weights.
Yeah.
I just don't know why. I don't know where that comes from. I guess it's consistent with anti-intellectual error. I think it's consistent with reading levels that you would listen to someone like Joe Budden and think that what they're saying is correct, or even Joe Rogan. What's going to happen to the world if these are the people that have your ear? They have so many listeners, right? Like there's so many people listen to them. And then they have people on the podcast that just the most horrible shit, and you just listen to them and ingest that into your spirit, but don't contest it. I don't understand that. And you don't contest it, and you also don't support the podcasts that are offering the truth. Not another opinion. It's literally the truth, right? Like
empirical data,
history, lived experience, right? These people are cisgender men and women, right? Heterosexual, white, right? Joe Budden is not white, but cis het, right? There's I just don't understand. I don't know. I don't get it.
You're saying you don't understand
what does it provide for you? What does it give you? Because I can understand what you think Gucci Slides would give you. I don't understand what you think listening to Joe Rogan does. I'm not clear.
It affirms what I believe already.
Okay.
I already believe that wokeism is destroying America. I believe myself to be American. I believe myself to be a patriot. And I have somebody who is making these illusions, this mythology, these false terms that are essentially meaningless. Fictions about whiteness. I have somebody that is making them real for me. Because in the world, for white people, it's also interesting with Joe Rogan, the world makes these things real. I think for a lot of black cis men who listen to shit like Joe Budden, maybe you don't feel affirmed in your patriarchy. Maybe patriarchy, the payoffs in the real world have been limited. Like you haven't really been able to flex your muscle as essentially a chauvinist, you know, in a way that
so this is like you're getting game on how to be further misogynistic.
Not even game. I think at the core of human beings, and I don't know, I just feel like people want to belong.
Oh, 100%.
I think we all just want to belong to something, and we all want to belong to others. It's not even just to something. We want to belong to people. And I think that podcasts or media personalities provide, like you talk about, they provide a parasocial sense of belonging where belonging is not happening in this society, where social belonging is lacking. These niggas' friends in their head.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's not that these are not people who just listen and they move on. These are adherents. These are evangelists for these people. You ever known a nigga to listen to Drink Champs? They love Drink Champs. They love Noriega. Like, you know, they're fans. And it's nothing wrong necessarily with being fans. But to your point, I'm wondering, what are you actually a fan of? Are you a fan of what they say, or are you a fan of what they represent? And your fandom is almost like they're looking at you as if you're not smart. So while you say, you know, them niggas is not, no, Joe Rogan is not smart, but they think of their listeners as even dumber.
Yeah.
I told y'all that Steve Bannon has a super popular podcast, and he called his listeners peasants. He calls his listeners
the
peasants.
other one that's newer? The newer podcaster, Republican white guy.
I wouldn't even be able to know.
I can't. I thank God.
Don't know.
I thank God that we
the
don't
less
know.
you know.
The less
sometimes.
And you know what? I think we give a little bit too much, maybe a little bit too much space to podcasts, because one of the main people that I would listen to growing up was Steve Harvey. And Steve Harvey was saying all the same things as everybody else, Joe Rogan and Joe Budden, right?
You listen to Tom Joyner, you said.
I listened to Tom Joyner, but then Tom Joyner got older and Steve Harvey started to be the person.
Yeah, that's when you was going to school.
What is it? Be a woman.
Be like a woman, act like, think like a woman, act like a man. I don't know.
That is disgust. That is just horrible rhetoric, but also just what he could, as of now, a conscious human being, I listened to the things that he said. But even when I was driving to school and going to community college in Baltimore, I would listen to him and just be like, what are you talking about?
And Steve Harvey's success as a longtime syndicated voice in the black community is also interesting, because Steve Harvey is, for all intents and purposes, a coon. Yeah. So again, these white media companies, white media companies are proliferating certain ideologies. They're proliferating regressive, racist, anti-Black ideologies. They don't give
that
a
uphold
fuck.
social order.
And they could care less whose mouth it come out of.
Yeah.
So they could care less whose mouth it comes out of.
Yeah.
So if you pushing a hard line and you doing shit like what we have tried to do for 8 years, no, you're not going to be super popular.
Yep.
You're not going to be super popular. For all that we've done to increase our listenership, it kind of stays the same.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I mean,
which I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for.
And I am. And I do thank everybody out there who listens. Would I like to reach more people? Yes. Are we going to reach more people? Yes. Are there barriers, real, not even financial barriers, but institutional barriers for us reaching more people? Yes. Nobody's going to want to pick us up. And I'm starting to feel like I don't want to be. We were in conversations with Vox and all these other people. It's like at one point, Condé Nast, in my conversation with them. And everybody's like, and they're approaching us. We're not going to these people. They're coming to us saying they're interested.
And I saw there's a popular white woman podcaster that talks about patriarchy. And again, it's like you fit the image, but you're doing the same talking points that Black trans women have provided to you. Like, it's baffling. It's baffling to witness. I'm just looking at that like, what you're saying ain't shit. And if it's us, if it is like queer and trans people talking about stuff, I feel like the way that we get deals is if we talk about it in a woo-woo way. No shade. I feel like we have to be like, yeah, I just feel like transphobia is just really just against the world. And we really need to just be in love with each other and really just honor each other. If you come at it with an I refuse perspective, energy.
But if you come at it from that community, if you are a Black, queer, or trans person, it's better if a cisgender person, a white cisgender person, is legitimating transness. You just told me somebody online, you told me, you didn't even tell me that they was online. You just told me what they said. And you told me there was a white cis person, white cis woman. What they say?
Trans women, because trans women continue to exist in their bodies despite it all. In spite of it all. Because of all the structures that are up against.
Oh, yeah, they continue to live even though they're up against so much. I'm like,
what?
That had millions of views. You're like, yep.
Millions of views.
2.23.
You can't actually be yourself. Like, what's the other? It's a popular podcaster. I could not think of their name, but they're very popular on TikTok. They're Pacific Islander. They're hella loud. They laugh hella loud. They use AVE. They got nails, everything. They got it all. If that was a Black woman, they would never have a major podcasting deal, as many of those views ever.
And the only way that they would be able to get it, they would have to be somebody like Jess Hilarious. You have to be violent. You gotta be transphobic. You have to parrot and mimic the white supremacist structure that employs you. People forget that the Breakfast Club is not its own independent entity. It is a radio station. It's a white-owned radio station. So as much as people think, as much of an institution in New York that the Breakfast Club has been, is also not necessarily its own creation. It's just another extension of what a white person thinks that Black media consumers want. So Charlemagne and DJ Envy, they provide that like clockwork. That's why Charlemagne says stupid violent shit all the time. He knows that's what's going to get the eyeballs.
And I think I'm concerned about the eyeballs. I think I'm concerned about, it's because it's people are like, oh, if you talk about it, if you critique it, you're a part of it too. I am of a small percentage of people actually critiquing it. I'm concerned about the people that think that this is okay, that are following the things that he said for years. People have protested Charlemagne and his transphobia.
Black trans people for years.
For years. So that's just a conversation of the day. Why do people listen to Trump versus why do you listen to Trump, period? The question. I guess that's the same question that I'm asking.
I think it's more so the values conversation. What has worth? What has value?
I mean, it goes back to like, this is wrong. This is right. What is the underlying structure that has you do it anyway, that has you do the wrong thing? If I tell you not to set that chair on fire, but you say, I'm going to do it anyway. What has you do it anyway?
Well, the thought that what is wrong? Is it wrong?
But that's the thing. I don't even think that.
What makes setting a chair on fire wrong? This is how they think about these things. If we're talking about immigration, this person is not a U.S. citizen. They should be deported. How is that wrong? This is how these people think.
Yes.
They're not thinking the United States is literally stolen land. That literally, you wouldn't have white people here in the United States without them having immigrated here and been allowed to come. It was literally in the naturalization laws of 1790. One of the first immigration laws in the United States said, if you're a white person from Europe, you can come. They're not thinking about it that way. They don't think that none of this is that, like you say all the time, these borders is artificial. You enforce a border. When you look at a map of the United States, you only see lines as the lines there. When I walk around from California to Mexico, ain't no line. You have to make a line. You have to make a toll. You have to make a literal border. You have to create a border. It's no borders.
Well, I think we're going to get into this episode. What has people do the things that they do? And this is jumping around just a little bit, but I think that all of these conversations connect. Okay. I have been listening to the Chinese manufacturers talk about how none of this stuff has as much value as you're giving it. Right. And something that you've talked to me a lot about is you need to stop shopping so much. Like you're shopping for some other reason. And I haven't listened. So in the same way that I just said, you say, don't burn that chair, don't set it on fire. And I say, why not? Why can't I? There's something at the root that has folks listen to those podcasts, that has people vote for Trump, that has people decipher between you're an immigrant, you should leave, and I'm a citizen, I should stay. There's a power structure within. There's a reason why, even though you're telling me I shouldn't shop or I need to stop shopping, which I have, even though I understand that clothes show up on the shores of Nigeria, right, in coastal Africa on a regular basis, you still are shopping. It's a much stronger force there. And the force that is present is this idea that I am unworthy if I don't burn that chair. I am unworthy if I don't have these clothes on and you don't think that I'm fly. If I wear the same thing or if I don't wear the thing that's cool or popular, then who am I? Right? Like you don't value in this world people's brains. You don't value what's between their ears, right? There's no value for it. Only thing that's valuable is power. I'm a citizen. You're not. Who says you're a citizen? A piece of paper? Right? What power are you holding? But that holds so much power. I remember when what's her face was like, y'all need to get passports, not Jordans. But it took away from Amanda Seales. It didn't actually contend with even having a passport is a function of this idea of power. No different than Jordans.
Or a fake national identity called American.
It's fake. And that's the rub I think folks are really sitting with right now. Is like, U.S. citizens? They're going to be deported?
No.
Why did you think you were safe within this binary? Why did you, what
binary that exploits and harms those who are not U.S. citizens.
But you were fine with humans being harmed. As long as it wasn't you.
As long as they had citizenship.
People have got to sit with, and everybody's going to be at different stages, right? I'm not expecting everybody to come at and just be here and just like, yep, I got it. I also have my stuff that I have to work through on a regular basis. It's psychological warfare that we're working through. It is psychological warfare. The fact that for a long time, I'll tell the story. I'll be vulnerable. When I started off doing more things publicly with social media or going viral or whatever, a lot of brands started reaching out to me. I worked with, you name it, I've probably worked with them. But also when I started to gain weight and my body started to shift, I was no longer asked to be on runways. I wasn't really asked to be a part of these campaigns, even though I also have a queer family that could be exploited at Pride. I have a double mastectomy that could be exploited in October. I have a black skin that could be exploited in February. I have all of those things. But that wasn't the thing that was going to actually sell. But what I was sitting with, what's wrong with me? How come these brands don't want to work with me? did I do something wrong?
Mhm.
Because my worthiness was connected to
Mhm.
these brands wanting to pay me, not
Mhm.
realizing that it is a blessing that I am not going to do your bidding any further,
Yeah.
right? That I'm not going to take from a business chump change,
Mhm.
right? Like that's nothing to
Yes.
these businesses
Mhm.
that have amounted billions of dollars for
Mhm.
people that look like me,
Yes.
right? From people who are actually creating the clothes,
Yeah.
from the people who are putting pennies together just to buy it so they're not made fun of in school.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't actually want to be a part of that any further, right? I
Yes.
don't want to gain worth from that. But that takes something to pull apart. Wait a minute. I think what you say all the time is that you have a lot of empathy for Black folks. And I have a lot of empathy as well for Black and marginalized people, because the act of and the work of psychological warfare is not just something you just like brush off.
Yeah.
Right. And I think as educators, we're like, how come people don't listen?
Mhm.
Or how come you didn't just do the right thing? Or how
Mhm.
come you didn't just change your actions?
Mhm.
Because it's a very strong pull to do the thing that is saying is going to offer you
Money.
life.
Money.
But even money, but
Mhm.
just life.
Livable goes back to that
Livable
livable
wage.
wage. Yes.
You make it so that if you make money, you can go to the doctor. People
Yeah.
are going to choose to do the thing so they can go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Right? What does Tupac say? If you make people hungry enough, they're going to fucking tear down the door. But people are not, because he was saying that, you know, starving people. But then you're like, just organize with picket signs. No, they're going to tear down the door and get some fucking bread.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to just sit still. And I think this is the scary part about racial capitalism. And as you like to talk about, and I think you want to talk about on this episode, is the internet. Because we're all exposed on social media to what everybody got. And everybody is showing what they have. And I'm not a big name brand person, but I love clothes. I love to share OOTDs. I love to share my kids' OOTDs. I love all that stuff. But why?
I also feel like with us in particular, with the work that anybody who's done any type of influencer marketing, though you're not an influencer, you've maintained that early on. What are the opportunities like for Black people, even in sex ed, to where you had to do these gigs in order to have money to live? So it's kind of like you're not tenured, you know, even having a PhD, all of those are ways that the sex education field and opportunities and careers within them are gatekept. So without those things, naturally, you're going to do what you have to do, including working with certain brands. Now, you say we work with pretty much everybody. Not really.
No, that's
not
true.
really.
That's
It's not true.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We actually were very, I'm emailing with people back and forth, asking them, like, what's their supply chain shit look like? We're turning down tons of money. We're turning down tons of brands. We're turning down Target. This is in 2021 and 2022.
Yep.
Where Target is Christopher John Rogers, Tabitha Brown. They're ramping up their partnerships with Black designers and Black brands and influencers. We're saying no to them because of their human rights abuses, because of the way they treat their retail employees. They don't necessarily pay what is now the term that's more acceptable, a thriving wage. But even that, we need to qualify wages. Livable, thriving, that we have to make distinctions there.
People should just
because
be able
so
to
many,
live.
right? But the wage itself, even having a wage, some people are salary workers, some people is wage workers. The wage workers get paid in such a way or get paid so little so that some people can have salaries, that so the C-suite can make 6 figures and 7 figures and 8 figures. Like, these are things that have been normalized. And I think when you grow in consciousness, and what we struggle with is that it doesn't feel normal, and it doesn't feel good, and it feels exactly how it's supposed to feel. It feels exploitative, it feels unfair, and it makes you upset, and it makes you depressed, and it makes you sad. And so from our vantage point, it's like we are doing what we have to do, but doing so in a way that we can still live with ourselves. Doing so in a way where we are able to minimize whatever harm that could be had by endorsing these brands. These brands work with influencers just in the same ways that they would work with marketing companies.
Mm-hmm.
Before social media, there was no influencer marketing.
Mm-hmm.
They're working with celebrities, and they're
Mhm.
paying these celebrities millions of dollars. With the advent of Instagram and then TikTok and all the rest of these companies, they're paying influencers and content creators a fraction of what they would normally pay for
Mhm.
marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling you damn near in no uncertain terms that they don't really want to pay you that much.
Mm-hmm.
They want view guarantees. They got 9 followers and 10 likes per post, but they want a view guarantee of 10,000 views before they pay you. View guarantees and influencer marketing is where, for those who don't know, where they will pay you only based if you make that view guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guarantee me 9,000 views and you make 8,000, I'm not going to pay you
Mm-hmm.
until you reach that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in effect having influencers kind of like almost in a holding pattern. It's almost like it's a little bit like slavery.
Not all influencers.
Not all influencers, but that's a distinction that we're making.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Make it
distinction that
very,
we're
very
making.
clear that these white influencers, same gig, would be getting paid thousands more than I was.
Yes.
Right? It didn't
Even
matter.
speaking at schools.
Oh, 100%. What is her name?
Robin DiAngelo.
Robin DiAngelo get paid versus what me or even Angela Davis gets paid. I wonder what the difference is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Robin DiAngelo gets paid more than Angela Davis. I wouldn't be surprised.
But,
or the fact that there are tenured white professors in Black studies programs, departments. That is deplorable.
You spoke at NYU before. Somebody messaged us and was like, yeah, I have knowledge that this person who is a influencer, they're a queer person, they're non-Black, person of color, got paid thousands more than you got paid for the gig. And the gig is asking you, can I just give you this? You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have the budget. And we're like, we don't think that should be a deterrent to us working together. So yes. But these other people are not doing that.
Nope.
They're not doing business inside of their policy. They don't have one to do business inside of.
Nope.
So it's like we're looking at the level of resource the organization has. Is a Black student union? Is it the LGBT? We're looking at all of these things, and nobody else is doing that. And that's also why we don't have lots of money. But the gag is, we'll be the people that people say, oh, you have $1 million house, or you're a grifter, when they disagree with something that we say. But the actual grift is happening at y'all jobs every single day.
And I don't even want a lot of money. I don't want a lot of money. I just want enough to be able to take care of my family. I've never aspired to have $1 million I don't want that. I don't want it. I don't want it. Because the more money that you have, it's true. The more problems that you have. Okay? It's not there. It's true. You need to talk about your class stuff, babe. Because you always believe that the more money that you have, that you'll be better off or fine or da-da-da. You don't, babe. You know how much money in taxes you have to pay? You're not Trump. You're not Uber. You're not going to be.
It's not just Trump that takes advantage of tax loopholes that the wealthy and affluent routinely take advantage of. We pay more in taxes than people in higher tax brackets.
So you think that going up to the higher tax bracket is the thing that's going to help you?
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that, but I don't necessarily believe in more money, more problems.
Why?
I believe that when you have more, you do more problems. However, when you poll, you got lots of problems. And it's not a carefree life.
The problem is that there's a binary, rich or poor.
That's right.
That's the problem. Not rich, more problems. Or, more money, more problems. There's a binary. Period.
What is poor people's experience? If the conventional wisdom is more money, more problems, less money, more what?
Okay, yeah.
Less money, less opportunities.
Yeah.
Less money, less water, clean water.
Yes.
Less money, less access to quality education. Less money, more susceptible to violence and
doctor
harms.
bills.
I think we could start to say, especially in the year 2025, we could start to reinvestigate this more money, more problems.
Yeah.
Now, while these people do have problems, for sure, they create problems for others.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. In order to get more money inside of a system of racial capitalism, I have to make sure that somebody is problematized.
That's right.
That somebody is a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, this episode is about or what me and Erica kind of have been toggling with and thinking about a lot is the value that people place in things. Like, how is value created individually? How is value created in society? What are the things that we assign value to? And what do we think people are worth? What do we think things are worth? What is worth our time? What is worth our eyeballs and attention on the TV, on social media? What even scholarship? What scholarship is worth, and what scholars are worthy and have value versus those who don't? Who are propped up by the academy or who's propped up in the media, who is not? I talk about this in general a lot, but our taste, our preferences, the things that we like are often self-selected for us by the state. I don't necessarily believe that in a society such as this, if we live in a white supremacist society, and by that we mean the privileging of and the ceding of power to white people in all areas of life for their sole benefit and at our expense or at the expense of non-whites, if we know that that's the case and where white supremacy has been thrown around for some decades now, it's almost like Black Lives Matter it's almost like a misnomer. They were being literal when they said it, but I think about Black Lives Matter, the slogan itself, almost in an ironic way. Because what it really is that it's not just that Black Lives Matter, but white lives matter more. White life is worth more. The hashtag. And that's the irony of white people reacting to Black people saying their lives matter. Ain't that funny? That Black people say Black Lives Matter, the white people's instant retort. Not smart. No thought behind it. Knee jerk. White lives matter too.
And
all
I
lives
always
matter
get
too.
frustrated when people are like, Black power or Black Lives Matter does not mean that white lives don't.
Yes.
You don't need to say that because the gag is that white lives matter more.
I know.
Period. So regardless if you say that or not, white lives still matter.
But
more.
why are people saying? Why do they feel the need to? Why do they feel the need to preamble that in that way?
You say that because you lose people's listening. People stop listening when you say Black Lives Matter. Point blank. Period.
Some people stop listening.
A lot of people stop listening.
If I say Black Power, which I do say, you're gonna get
Black powder.
Black powder. When we say Black Power, and when Black Power was beginning to be said as a term in the 60s, really in the 50s, because Black Power emerged out of the negritude movement in Africa. Black is beautiful. All of that is Pan-Africanist rhetoric that came honestly from the continent in a lot of ways, and from a lot of thinkers like Amy Césaire and Kwame Nkrumah. Like in the 60s, Black people are looking to Patrice Lumumba. They're looking to Black people all across the continent gaining their independence. From the Congo to Ghana, they're looking at those leaders of African countries and saying, damn, these people are literally going to war against European powers, against the Belgians, against Britain, and winning their independence. Like, to see that and to be a child in 1960 and to see Patrice Lumumba's example, I don't even know how that must have felt.
And then what is the impact considering what happened to Patrice Lumumba?
Well, I'll tell you the impact when he was alive. The impact when he's alive, now you have the 60s, lots of Black Power movements popping up. Now, you had them before, obviously, Black people in the United States also, and in the Caribbean. It's almost like the diaspora is sending unconscious signals to one another because no liberatory or revolutionary movements are happening in vacuums. In the 1950s in Baltimore, before the Baltimore uprisings in the 60s, which they call the Baltimore riots, which again, that language, that rhetoric, calling these things that happen in Watts or happen in South Central, calling them riots rather than calling them uprisings. What does that make a person think about that history if you continue to use incorrect language to describe what Black people are doing? You're using problematized language. They're rioting. They're looting. Rather than, if you think about it in the context of the container under which it's happening, a white supremacist country, then what would you call it? You wouldn't say that slave rebellions were riots. You didn't call them slave riots. They were called rebellions and they were called revolts. So that's the same thing in the 1950s. That's happening in Baltimore. Even a little bit before Brown versus Board of Education comes down and after it comes down, in Baltimore, there they're already revolutionary movements doing all type of protests and shit against the school system before it's a big thing nationally. People are not associating that with Baltimore. What they associate with Baltimore is the riots. That's what you grew up hearing about, the riots. You're not growing up hearing about in the 1950s how the state of Maryland is intentionally taking out Black teachers, intentionally making the school system substandard for Black students in Baltimore City. We have something to say about it, but you don't get that. So again, in the 60s, you're getting all of this revolutionary activity and energy. It's happening before we even had a language to describe it. So by the time you get to the 60s and you seeing all this revolutionary movement, it's building up. So my whole point about it is what happens to patriarchal movement after is that, well, you get killed because you're coming up against world powers. That doesn't necessarily stop the Black Panther movement from forming or from being a force. They're taking that and they're saying, because that happened to him, this is how we're going to organize ourselves without this need or desire for coalition building with white people, without this need or desire for integration with white people or white movements. You know what I'm saying?
So then what happens when they're murdered, exiled?
You know?
We
start to, but we start to assign, to your point, we start to assign value and worth to, well, you know, maybe the white people during the civil rights, maybe they was trying to help. Like, maybe they're not all bad.
Go deep. Maybe what Cory Booker is doing is okay. We got to start somewhere.
Why can't I celebrate?
Maybe Jasmine Crockett, the things that she's saying is okay.
Or why can't I celebrate Harvard?
Why can't I celebrate? This is where we go, where we think that somebody's standing for 25 hours doing a filibuster was something that was revolutionary because he was a Black man standing there doing it while he's collecting $800,000 and more from a Zionist lobby, right? Like we are missing it. People put their livelihood on the line because they said absolutely not to further colonialism. Absolutely not to you coming in here. We don't need that. We don't need it. But now I feel like there has to be a reckoning with how are we going to, back to community, take care of each other because we cannot keep accepting coin from these institutions expecting to be free, because as long as we take coin from these institutions, we are further shackled by them.
And that goes back to what I was saying. That's the point I was making about who people want to be listened to. You'll lose people's listening depending on the things that you say. If I say Black Power, I'm going to gain the listening of so many other people for whom that is freeing, for whom that language, that ideology, that rhetoric, that movement is freeing. A lot of Black people, because of the way the system is rigged, where you have to be on white people's good side, you have to appeal to them in order to get money and get opportunities, we feel like we need their listening. We feel like we need them to listen to us. And so we have to say things, like you said, in such a way where they aren't turned off, where so they don't feel alienated.
I don't know that that's the truth, though. I don't know that people are... I think we are conditioned to protect white feelings, 100%. The whole country, the whole structure, the system is organized around protecting white feelings, 1,000%.
Yes.
And further than that, as Cedric Robinson talks about, and Black Marxism, is that it's deeper than that, and that you're protecting white feelings so that you can have your money. Right? So that you can have wealth, right? And there's a reason, I'm sorry I'm talking about y'all fave real quick. There's a reason why Beyonce don't say nothing about nothing. But people will be quick to say, but she gives money to organizations, but she does support queer and trans people. They're her makeup artist. Beyonce doesn't say nothing about nothing because she knows that if she does that, she will not have the mass wealth that she has. She won't. And you know what else will happen? Likely, because we know that billionaires do not become billionaires without treating people like shit. There's no way to become a billionaire without exploitation in order for you to become a billionaire. She has to stay quiet. That's why old girl Chaperone said, I'm a pop star. I can't know all this stuff. Of course, it's antithetical to you being a pop star. If you actually, because she critiqued Kamala Harris in Palestine, right? She did critique that, right? White people love to critique Black people in positions of power.
Chaperone
critiqued Kamala Harris, said, I can't vote. She said, I can't vote for Kamala Harris because she's in power. I just can't. I can't stand for that. And that was the last thing she said. And now what is she saying?
I can't say nothing.
Can't say nothing. I can't say nothing. I can't work out and eat and maintain all these things and maintain wealth. That's what she's telling you. I can't maintain wealth if I critique Trump. Because most of my supporters
and my family members and my friends whose children I will not watch.
What is she called? The Midwest princess, okay? All right? That will mess up her money. There is a belief that you must be obedient to white people. Like that preacher is talking about, Pastor Mitchell or whatever his name is. He's saying Black kids, Black people need to respect authority. That was something I grew up with. We were taught that in Black households. You need to listen to your parents. You need to listen to your grandparents. You do not speak back. You do not talk back to authority. So then that gets translated. You don't talk back to the teachers, even though they're being racist. You don't talk back to your principal, even though they're racist too. You don't talk back to the police officer that pulls you over, right? And even if you don't talk back, guess what? You're still at fault for the harm that you experience at their hands. But here's how I think I can protect you is if you're just obedient. Just be obedient.
Well, you're innocent.
Just be obedient, right? So you can live, just like you're talking about with the riots, right? That's not obedience. Y'all need to do this differently. I'm doing it wrong. That's what they said about me with Columbia. They said the way that Erica's organizing is she's going about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
She should not be doing that. She shouldn't have talked about this online. She shouldn't have critiqued the other projects. She shouldn't have did that. The way she did it was wrong. And you know what I did? I blame myself. I blame myself because these are the people who still have their jobs. These are the people that still don't have their livelihood impacted. So I'm like, wait, did I do it wrong? No. The people who constantly are pushing up against shit are the people that are discarded. So you're going to hear from these people that want to maintain their wealth, that want to maintain their money. They don't say shit. Even the activists. That's why I don't talk about Palestine. Jasmine Crockett, what are you doing? You going off, you saying things that are ableist, right? You doing these things, you saying, which we can argue, right? It's ableist in nature. But you're saying it to be ableist. That's why she's saying it. She's saying it to be mean. Like she's using derogatory words to be mean. But you won't denounce Israel? Like, come on now. What master do you serve?
I love that people are criticizing Chaperone and her complicities in systems of harm and violence that privilege white people, but also her being an uber capitalist. She is a capitalist. While Chaperone may not have, due to a relatively short career, not as much money as Beyonce, I feel like we continue to use Beyonce as an example to make a case about the Black managerial class and how that doesn't equal liberation and freedom. And Beyonce is one of the foremost, I guess, the easiest example to pull from. But I think we all have to start working on developing a lexicon around white people who started that. This uber capitalist, especially uber capitalist white celebrities who have done, not saying it's not even comparative to Beyonce, but it's like Beyonce is following a pattern that white celebrities have followed, white PR teams, legacy establishment PR teams who have advised for decades artists on what to say, what not to say, how to say it, when to say it, what causes are safe to support, what causes aren't safe to support publicly. We need to develop a stronger lexicon around them because I think we start to miss what white people do.
What difference does it make if it comes out of a Black package if it's still whiteness?
It makes a huge difference.
No, it doesn't.
There's
it doesn't
no,
make
because
any
we
difference.
don't know who.
It's still whiteness. that they're upholding. Beyonce is upholding whiteness.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, she is a Black person who is upholding whiteness in order to maintain wealth.
So is Oprah. So we'll throw Oprah in there.
Of course.
But so is the CEO of Whole Foods.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it right. But
it's not about making it right. It's about attention. It's about who we are paying attention to as a way to shift value and worth.
I get what you're saying. So what you're saying, we'll get into this conversation. So what you're saying is people critiquing Gayle King should really be also focused on Katy Perry going up in that spaceship.
Yeah, I didn't even know people were critiquing Gayle King.
Oh yeah, they critique Gayle King. And they said the same things they said about all of them going into space.
Can you explain that for people who don't know?
People know, babe. It's you that doesn't know.
Apparently Whitey was on the moon, but they didn't go that far.
No, exactly. They were critiquing Gayle King and all this female space trip, female empowerment space trip on Jeff Bezos's spaceship, which is called Blue Oganar, something like that. Doesn't matter. Jeff Bezos's spaceship. He did a female empowerment trip, which was like roughly 8 to 11 minutes into space.
Is the name of it really female empowerment?
That's what they called it. That's why I said it's transmisogynistic.
I want you to talk more about that.
Yeah, so they called it female empowerment. They had Amanda Nguyen, who is a astronaut, a
physicist,
that works in social justice,
in race
and social justice. Jeff Bezos' fiance was also on that trip, and another Black femme who is also an astronaut. Okay. So they got their outfits designed by Oscar de la Renta. They had their face beat. They had their hair done all ahead of this trip. So they've been receiving criticism because you're spending all of this money to go up in the air, which has been estimated at $28 million for this 8 to 11 minute Uber ride into space. $28 million, while what you look at is Earth, where there is genocide happening, houselessness, motherfuckers is getting measles. You people can't even eat. You name it. But y'all, they won't even disclose, which I think is the gag for me. They won't even disclose how much they paid or what they were paid to go on this spaceship to do this female empowerment trip. Okay,
I'm sure that was in the female contract.
We won't disclose it, but it's estimated to be $28 million. So the critique is obvious, right? This is not important. This is also not female empowerment.
Yes, it's
y'all are, weaponizing feminism as a way to continue to exploit being uber rich, so on and so forth. And Gayle King says, you don't understand. Once you go into space, then you'll understand. But you won't understand. Have you been to space? I kid you not, you said that. Have you been to space?
Have you been? Because y'all barely was in space.
No, she said, once you launch, then you'll understand. You need to launch.
TM. Blue Ocean, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, Blue Ocean. I don't even know what the fuck it's called. Katy Perry said, did you hear what she said?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm going to do it for you.
I don't know Katy Perry.
Yeah, I just feel like I was just so much more connected to the earth. And love is just deep inside of me. I am just so connected to love. You leave and you just don't know what's going to happen. And then when you land, it's I just love these people in my life and the earth. And, you just, when you launch, you'll just get it. You'll get it.
There's some great advertising. He did his thing on the marketing.
Okay.
They selling it.
Tourism.
They're selling it.
Space tourism.
This is some influencer marketing if it ever was.
Okay. And, people are rightfully critiquing it, but I think the part that might be missed a little bit is how this trip was transmisogynistic. And I kept asking the question yesterday, how is this transmisogynistic? How is this transmisogynistic, Erica?
You just had a feeling.
Right? I just had a feeling. Female empowerment in a country that is deciding, that is redrawing the lines of who a woman is and who a woman is not. You have female empowerment. And then you have, when critique this spaceship ride, like I have, people will say, well, Amanda Nguyen, she did it for good reasons. So I looked at her page and she says that she did it because, trigger warning, sexual assault, she said that she will never give up on her dreams, right? Of going to space, right? This was always her dream. And I said, why would Jeff Bezos want to have someone on a spaceship that is talking about sexual assault so like in the open, right? It's not like a thing that's like in her Wikipedia. Like she's saying this is the reason why she wanted to go. She says she floated the medical ban while she was in space. Well, what was happening in the 70s with the feminist movement is that you saw the largest increase of women, right, going to prison and not being able to get out, right? When they get out, they're not able to integrate into society, but also just increase in prison sentences in general, because what the feminist movement did is that they fed into the carceral state.
Yes.
They said, oh, if you are, sexual assault or you harm us, then these are the things that are going to happen to you, right?
Yes.
And because we still live in a patriarchal society, regardless of a feminist movement or not, the police, if you call the police as a person that identifies as a woman or assumed to be a woman, because your partner is being violent towards you in a domestic or intimate partner violence situation, they still are arresting you. Yeah. Because that's the structure of the state, right? To always vilify the people that you want to control, which is oftentimes women or folks who are assumed to be. Yes. So then you see an increase in the police state. Female empowerment, riding on this idea that there's liberation on the other side of launching of a $28 million expedition that nobody needed, right? But using her sexual assault as in a time where the president is constantly calling and equating immigrants with criminals, that these deplorable human beings in our government are saying, oh, yeah, immigrants are raping American citizens and yada, yada, yada. You have someone in a spaceship saying, this is what gave me freedom. You are using her so you can continue to create criminals. You can continue to justify the carceral state when you know that at the border, motherfucking Border Patrol and even people who are not Border Patrol, right? Homeland Security and the folks that just snap on a badge from Amazon and call themselves that, right?
That
are
happens.
The people, right? Are the people who are causing sexual violence at insurmountable rates, so much so that people who immigrate to this country will go on birth control just to prevent what potentially could happen if they are sexually assaulted at the border. But no, you got somebody up in space talking about, I floated my medical ban. You are using her experience so you can justify space tourism and so you can justify furthering the carceral state. And it's disgusting. And all of these people should be ashamed of themselves. Yes. Each and every single one.
And it is coming at a time where, as we saw on October 7th in the New York Times and all these other publications, with little to no journalistic integrity, literally using sexual violence this is an old tactic to use sexual violence in a geopolitical sense in order to criminalize Arab people and criminalize non-white people. So I think that's very interesting. Jeff Bezos is not no advocate for sexual assault prevention awareness.
Is he supporting the people that have been sexually assaulted at Amazon? Or the people that experience sexual violence at Amazon?
So all this freedom y'all got from space, you can't have that freedom on the warehouse floor. You don't have that freedom on the warehouse floor. You don't have that freedom on the truck. And you don't have that freedom on the ground if you work at Amazon.
Say that.
You don't.
Say that.
The fact that we have to work there is an indication of the freedom that people are... That's the hard part that I'm having.
It's maddening. So much with CO2 emissions, more than anyone in their lifetime would admit, is what that one mission did.
10 minutes.
And these 10 minutes, people are literally, and then here we go back to what people like, okay? People justify what Amanda Wynn did because they're saying she did it to liberate herself from the sexual violence that she experienced. And what happened to them is real. Right? And it should be fought for. And it's being used to further capitalism, right? It's being used, a feminist movement, feminist space is being used to further perpetuate harm. And that is incredibly violent. And these motherfuckers, Elon Musk also has a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
They're all trying to do this space tourism thing.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows what's going to happen to us?
They're calling it space tourism. It's just space colonization.
Okay.
It's not that Richard Branson or Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos need any other new businesses or enterprises to make money.
Yep.
These are uber billionaires, damn near altogether net worth $1 trillion, actually in the trillions. So what they're hoping to do is colonize space. What they're hoping to do has a lot more implications than just making a few celebrities feel good for 10 minutes. It's more than a PR stunt. It is hiding or obfuscating some other agenda that if you look up space tourism, quote unquote, you'll see white people have been wanting to figure out how can we live on another planet? How can we then make it so that if I wanted to live on Mars, I could. If I wanted to get away from people, that you have to, they talk about this. These are normal libertarian view level conversations. How can we go to space and use space as a way to, in the event of the apocalypse, these white people are always concerned about the apocalypse, you know, in the event of apocalyptic or any event of global disaster, where will we go? So they consider themselves to be, quote unquote, in the frontier of that, the front runners of a movement to figure out, one, not only how can white wealthy people get to space if need be, but then how can we commodify and commercialize and capitalize on transportation missions to space. That's all it is.
But you need, I think the part too that is like, ooh, like this shit is deep. You need a deportation, abduction, literal slavery flights into places like El Salvador and Venezuela in order to believe that going into space for 8 minutes, in order to believe that a white man should have a spaceship. That you believe that that is something that someone should have. Meanwhile, people are being uprooted from their families, put into warehouses, handcuffed to each other. You have to have that in order to believe that Jeff Bezos is deserving of a spaceship.
Well, Jeff Bezos is, again, how do the white uber wealthy billionaires, how are we able to capitalize and commodify on quote unquote space tourism by having the masses of people who cannot afford it, who it's not designed for, have feel good feelings about it and defend it online? That is all a part of the design. That's all a part of the hope, is that literally we will have people say, well, she went for a good reason, that there will be good reasons to go, that the CO2 emissions associated with the flight, all of that was for a good reason. There will be increased levels of justifications for the things that the uber wealthy hope to do. And there's the working class, middle class, and the poor, those are going to be the people who do the bidding for them. They're going to be the people who actually make that culturally acceptable. There's not even the people who cannot access space travel, who it's not made
more about
for.
that.
They're hoping that by using neoliberal sort of activist language and using well-known celebrities and buying them and buying their support, that will then ingratiate the rest of us, the masses, to their larger capitalistic plans. Katy Perry is not like a major celebrity. It's not like a person who... It's not even that they're thinking that deep. Like, they didn't get Taylor Swift on the flight. They're not getting...
think they like Taylor Swift.
Right. So they're getting particular people who are middle of the road, who the white, poor, working class, white, racist bigots, who they like, which is a person like Katy Perry, who herself is a white, racist bigot.
Yeah. That's why I feel like it's important. I don't end the point of racial capitalism. Like, I don't think that we should not be talking about this. I think that you doing a mission that's estimated at $28 million, which would literally changed so many people's lives. Like, people are not able to make ends meet. People are not having job security right now. We are entering into a recession. And you mean to tell me that you sent 7 people into space for 8 minutes for what? And now some of those 7 people are trying to convince us that was a good idea.
Yes.
That was something that was worth it.
Yes.
That was something that they can attain to, that, like.
And that's the point, is that the AI can attain to.
Yes.
They're banking on the mass of people who it's not designed for. Believing that it's something to want to attain in the first place. Yeah. That is something that has value that don't have no value.
And that's the thing. But neither does Jeff Bezos, is my point.
Right.
He doesn't have any value. Yesterday, I couldn't believe this, but on Trevor Noah's podcast, he said something I don't think he realized that he said. And I listen to his podcast sometimes, but he said that I think that Elon Musk is a fraud. Or he didn't say I think he's a fraud. He said, is he really who he says he is? Is he really? He says that the Tesla will be the first self-driving car, but it hasn't been able to do that. So he's convincing his shareholders that it will do that. They buy into it, and still, there's only a few of them cars. I've only seen like 2 in San Francisco. That's like,
they've been having those for a while.
But they don't have that. They're not like, most cars are not self-driving.
No. He's
convincing them that they will be. So it's like, y'all
for what
have bought into, but y'all believe it's in what Trevor Noah said is like, how is this any different than Elizabeth Holmes? It's not. It's not. These people make up shit and y'all buy into it because they're white. Because you believe that they don't have to accomplish anything.
Well, that's the point we make on this podcast all the time. It's not just Elizabeth Holmes. It's Bernie Madoff. It's Trump.
Yep.
It's literally people saying, I think that Trump should be president because he's a great businessman when he's had several failed businesses, hundreds of millions of dollars lost.
It's people celebrating Harvard for rejecting Trump. It's like, y'all, I think for me, the hard thing for me is that the second that I understood and read that Harvard used enslaved people to build their wealth, to become an Ivy League, right? There's a great book called Ebony and Ivy. Once I understood that places like Colombia are built on enslaved labor, the genocide of indigenous Americans, I didn't value them in the same way anymore. Yeah. And I think what's concerning to me is people still want to give it value. And I just wonder, the only way you're giving it value is because you devalue Black people. Like, you have to be straight up about that, because the only way they continue to get value is by gentrifying the whole neighborhood that surrounds Harvard, which is a predominantly Black neighborhood. Not anymore, but that's what it used to be. That's the only way they continue to get value. The only way they continue to get value is to create these made up stipulations around entrance to make you feel like only white people can gain entrance.
Or that they are special, they're smarter, they're better, and that's the reason why they're able to gain entry into a place that's built on slave labor.
But literally all it is that they don't allow them in.
Yeah.
You just don't
based
allow
on the criteria that they created.
Right.
How can a place built on slave labor, how could the criteria for entry be separate from the history, from the origin of the place? It's like, that makes sense. It's like, if slavery is built on the premise that white people are greater, better, the school is also going to follow that same logic. It's going to follow that same, that's going to be the stance of the school. That's why the school looks like that till this day.
And I think that that's hard for me. I think that that's like it's hard for me to be with the buy-in, because that requires buy-in, right? And not just from white people, right? It requires buy-in from Black people that this is a great institution. And I think that is a level of deep psychological warfare, that a place that literally harmed our ancestors across the diaspora is a place that you now revere as a wonderful institution.
Well, people are asking you mentioned the celebration of Harvard. Harvard, for those who don't know, Trump is, of course, threatening to rescind federal funding
From all of these
Harvard,
institutions.
for targeting colleges and universities, in particular, threatening to rescind or reduce or take away their funding if they do not make the changes that the Trump administration wants them to make, i.e. get rid of your DEI departments, i.e. get rid of certain faculty, i.e. get rid of certain students who are in support of, who are not in support of the United States government.
Yeah, because what is his name? Rubio.
Marco Rubio.
He said that Mahmoud Khalil did not exhibit anti-Semitism. He did not break any laws, but his views go against U.S. international law, like U.S. international relations. That's what he
and
said.
the court agreed. Even
Yes.
though Mahmoud Khalil is married to a United States citizen, which is some law that the United States made up itself. Oh, if you're married to a United States citizen, you gain naturalization through that means. Mahmoud Khalil, according to the white supremacist legislative container of the United States, is a legal, quote unquote, lawful citizen. But the courts who enforce laws are saying, yeah, because of your views, you can actually be deported on those grounds, even though that is highly unlawful or extra lawful. That's going beyond what the law typically allows, the law of the land, i.e. the United States legal system. So with that, it's like, where I go, it's like, I don't even know where to go with that. It's like,
I feel like what you're thinking you need to say. I feel like our brains are connected a little bit. Because the question that I have for you immediately is it unlawful? When the law is not created for anybody.
It's the same, and it's like, I don't want to be like, well, of course, the law it's not real. The law governs
real.
our lives, so it's
it governs
real.
Whose lives?
All of our lives. That's why they were able to do that. But the laws themselves are so mutable that it's like, that's why people are having strong reactions and saying, oh, this can happen to us, this can happen to U.S. citizens, because generally speaking, people believe in the law. They believe that it protects them.
Why?
And they say they believe it protects it because of their level of relative privilege. I believe, because for some people, the law ain't never. If you black, we don't have that same relationship to the law. Like crime or who's a criminal, that was first piloted on us.
Like my homegirl says, respect to the law.
Respect to the law.
Respect to the law.
Respect to Allah. Fuck the law. Straight up. Excuse me, Allah, for cussing, but still. But that's... This can happen to U.S. citizens. It already has happened to U.S. citizens. And I think I was talking to a friend of ours, Isaiah Blake, a really incredible scholar, and he was talking to me about something that Frank B. Wilderson said about how Black people were worthy of our suffering. Not that we deserve to suffer, but that we're worthy of our suffering in the sense that, and they also said that what happens to Black people are seen as a object while other people are seen as subjects.
Correct.
So it's not like people view, oh, Harvard was built on slave labor as a problem. That doesn't occur to people as a valuable insight. That just occurs to people as something that happened and that it's over and that it shouldn't affect Black people's ability to then go to Harvard. You should just be able to be smart enough to just go to Harvard.
No,
the people,
that's not what they think.
What do they think?
They think what happened to Black people through chattel slavery, over 400 continued years of chattel slavery, was supposed to happen. That's just what's supposed to happen to Black people, which is why people don't talk about Sudan. They don't talk about the Congo. They don't talk about even what's happening in the global South. So that's the difference. You think that violence should happen to us, which is why y'all sat at lynchings and watched our literally life leave our bodies and ate fucking popcorn and drank tea while doing so. It's the same reason why you watch fucking extrajudicial killings in the street by police officers and debated if what happened to us was lawful or not. So that's why I say, what is the law other than a protection for white people, other than a space for white people to have disagreements or debates, right? It is all about their protection at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The distinction between immigrant and citizen is all about whiteness. It don't have nothing else to do with that. And that's what we talked about in our 2 episodes ago. A Russian immigrant, an Israeli immigrant, an Italian immigrant, a French immigrant, UK, these motherfuckers can just come here. They're not being deported. They're not being named on the street as immigrants. They are being seen as U.S. citizens, even if they have a fucking accent.
Yes. Yeah.
This is all about whiteness at the end of the day. Who is worthy? And that's where the gag is. That's where the sadness comes from. Because even if you, Black person, have on Gucci slides, you carry in the bag. I remember so many years ago, something that sort of radicalized me, is that Oprah went to, I think, Gucci or Chanel. Hermes, thank you. But I feel like this happened to her twice. Because that was many, many years ago.
She went to Hermes, and that was a
like
huge
10
deal.
years ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she went in there and they literally profiled her. Because at the end of the day, you're Black. They don't care. Even when
you don't look like wealth.
You don't look like wealth.
You don't fit the bill.
But it's not about you don't look like wealth. You don't look like you deserve to be in here.
And have the $600 bag, China-made bag.
That they made for $300. But that you think gives you life, that will give you worthiness. So what do? I've done it too. I do deserve to be here. I can buy the stupid bag and then account go negative. I can buy a
Oprah
stupid
could buy the whole
right?
entire
But then
store.
that's what she does. She's like, I deserve to be there. And then people support it. Like, of course Oprah deserves. Anybody deserves to be in there. It's a stupid store. The fact that we believe that a stupid country, that's only certain people deserve to be here based on what? You have to sit with that based on what? Are you making these distinctions, these binaries? Where are you making that distinction?
Immigrants should only be here because they work hard. Immigrants should only be here because they are good people. But immigrants should only be, it's the same rhetoric.
It's the same rhetoric.
You shouldn't have resisted arrest. That's so sad what happened to them. They, the cops are killing innocent Black people.
What you said about riots versus uprising.
What I mean is more specifically kind of like what you were reading in that article.
Against Innocence?
Against Innocence by Jackie Wayne. And there was a conversation between Sadia Hartman and Frank B. Wilderson about Trayvon Martin and what would have happened had Trayvon Martin been armed. What if Trayvon Martin would have actually killed George Zimmerman, which I really wish would have occurred.
Same.
That Trayvon Martin deserved to be here. He's worthy of life. George Zimmerman is not. So I am actually doing the thing that we are talking about. And I'm happy to do that.
But we're convinced. We're convinced. And even right now in this moment, right? Jerry, my therapist, will be like, what are you feeling? What's there for you? My heart sank a little bit that you said that. Because I'm like, our podcast is gonna be cut off. Our podcast gonna go away. But see, he killed the child. Psychological warfare.
Yeah.
The motherfuckers, do people understand that Dylan Roof, they brought him a hamburger.
Yeah.
They asked him if he was hungry. Because white people have life. White people are human. Black people and anybody else that is any sort of proximity to Black people are not.
He done literally killed multiple people at a church.
Was he
Are you hungry?
Was he deported?
Where was he
chained to other people?
Was he going to the place where criminals are? Apparently, El Salvador is only criminals.
He fulfilled the law. He fulfilled the rules of the state. Police, criminal justice system was created to police Black people and anyone else. I always say white supremacy is not intricate. I mean, it's intricate, but it's not
innovative.
It's boring. All it does is copy paste and regurgitate itself on other things. People say, oh, this is an immigrant issue. Oh, this is a trans issue. Oh, this is a Black issue. It's all the same shit. It's all binaries. that are from the basis anti-blackness, which is what you try to get us to understand all the time. At the end of the day, the structure, the foundation for it is anti-blackness. It's these pseudoscientists that say, look here, white people, you're white. Even though you've been calling yourself European for years.
And before they did that, they said, you're a Slav.
Yep, and that's what I said. Even though you've been calling yourself,
you're Celtic, you're
all
Irish.
these other things, you're white now.
I'm English.
Because guess what? Those people over there are savages. And we're white and we're Christian and we're pure. And in order for us to be pure, guess what needs to happen? Them to be savages. So that replicates and replicates and replicates. In order for me to be a woman, you need to be trans. Even though, which is getting into Gil Peterson's work, is like, trans, the definition of it is like you are transitioning from cisgender, which asserts that cisgender is the base. Motherfuckers in the 1800s were not calling themselves trans. They called themselves hijras, right? They called themselves mushes, right? They called themselves all these different things that didn't have nothing to do with, oh, that's a woman and that's a man and I'm something in the middle and I'm a third gender. Right? So even our distinctions for how we name things now within gender are still very much informed by a binary that we believe is real.
Yes.
And it's not.
No.
It's not real.
No.
What's real is that human beings are distinct. They're different.
Yes.
They experience the world and life in various ways.
And that's not enough for the European mind.
No, because what they want is to subjugate.
And they said the way to subjugate you, the easiest way would be to take that normal human difference that occurs, that great diversity and humanity, and exploit it and exaggerate it. This is what Cedric Robinson is talking about. The European penchant and tendency to exploit differences before they even made contact with people who had skin other than white.
They was just going over there looking.
But before they went anywhere, they were looking at each other.
Yes.
Oh, you a Protestant?
Yeah.
Oh, you Catholic?
Yeah.
Well, something wrong with that. It's like, no, they're literally doing that.
Yes. Yes.
You deserve to die based on me. I mean, literally.
This is what's happening.
You are a slave. You deserve, you Slavic, I'm English. You Irish, I'm English. You deserve to be a slave.
Yep. And what is it? And the impetus for this, the reason for this happening continuously is because it is the foundation for how motherfuckers live. How people are able. Or how they die.
Yeah.
Right? That is the basis for it. Right? Like, do you live or do you die?
Yeah.
Like, that's the way that we need to start relating to our identity.
And that's the way we need to start relating to racism. That is Ruth Wilson Gilmore's definition of racism, is essentially how systems of oppression collude toward premature death, toward a person's premature death. It's not just, I don't like you because you black. I want you to die.
And it's also, and I love what Jules Gills Peterson also says about neoliberal liberation, like trans neoliberal liberation is the kissing cousin of fascism. And it kind of took my breath away a little bit, but it literally is cis people being like, trans women are women. I stand with trans women. Meanwhile, you say all them things and you maybe got a t-shirt now that you're selling at Target for too much. Trans people still don't have employment. They still don't have job security. They're still being murdered in the street. Like, it's all about, let me just make it look cool, but let me not actually shift any of the structures that directly impact people who are categorized as different, right? Even women, distinct from men, you are categorized as different. Right? So you are categorized as undeserving. It doesn't mean that you are born undeserving. It means that you're born into a category that's made up.
Yes.
And instead of
and the attributes are made up.
Instead of contesting with the category that's made up, you contest with your gender. You contest with you, who you are, who you believe yourself to be. And also what you're told. You're told to be that gender. You don't contest with, because you're supposed to respect authority. You don't contest with your parents that are saying you're a girl. You don't contest with your teachers that say, I have to say she, her. You're supposed to play with pink. You don't, It's all connected for you to just be obedient. So when motherfuckers are not obedient, they're like, you know what? I don't actually have to listen to anything that you say. You say, okay, you don't get to be it. Because us who are obedient, we are that.
Yeah.
Because we follow the rules and we get to have access to what? Fucking patriarchy? Oh, great. Good luck. Enjoy.
Access to whatever is left of the capital.
Yep.
The social capital, the having a partner, having friends, having health care. That's what I'm saying. It's not just, oh, I don't like trans people. That's a man, that's a woman, or you really ain't no man. You really not a real man. Da 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 da. You got a vulva. Da da da. Like that's the sensationalized aspect of it. The real piece is I'm not gonna hire you. The real piece is that's decide where I get to live. That then decides whether or not I'm in the hospital, how I'm treated in the hospital, what kind of health care I'm gonna get. Am I gonna get up off the table?
Are you gonna get it at all?
Am I gonna get it at all? You know, it decides whether we, like you're saying, Ruth Wilson Gilmore, whether you live or you die. So that's the bigger thing. Yes, the UK Supreme Court, they're reifying pre-existing transphobia with the law by saying women mean biological. What is it? Biological woman is something that we need, is now
biological.
Biological.
So male or female. There's no other way to exist.
Yes.
Only male or female.
Right. They're reifying that with the law, but they do that anyway, which is why Black trans people are not given employment opportunities at the same rate as even cisgender queer people. We go into jobs and people looking at us like, this is, or we do have a job. We not at the executive director level, C-suite level, none of that.
Which is
so
why
to keep us in that, to your point about this criminalization piece, to keep us as a perpetual other, a Manichaean other, and Manichaean other comes from Manichaeism, which was like sort of like an early Persian thought leader, Mani. And what it is Manichaean is sort of the beginnings in the early, I don't think fucking first or third century, the early beginnings of binary thought, actually early that Europeans borrowed from. This idea of light and dark means good and bad.
Oh, that's helpful.
So that so this Manichaean other is almost how Black people are thought of. As like, you are the ultimate example of the enemy, of you are not just dark, you literally represent darkness, so I'm gonna call you Black. White is light. It's good. It's pure. Black is dark. It's not good. It's no coincidence that is the Negro. All of that, the language that they chose was intentional. Language creates worth. Language creates worth and value in the world. You say Hermes, like you said, the bag should be $30,000 because a white person said it should. They said the bag is quality, it's luxury. That's why it should cost that much. And you got people rapping talking about, I want a Birkin. Take me to Chanel.
Even Lululemon. I thought that I was supposed to wear that stuff.
The young kids now.
But in my yoga classes, I've been practicing yoga for a long time. I was in those classes with my Target yoga pants on, and I was like, what are those?
And they came from the same place.
They came from the same,
The Target and the Lululemon come from the same place. The Lululemon is $150.
You should see those videos. They're like, this is the Lululemon jacket right here, $20. But y'all pay $150.
And I love that people are like, oh my God, I love the Chinese manufacturers putting us on blast. The Chinese government has a lot to do with those videos that y'all seeing. I love y'all to death. I love people's support of the Chinese manufacturers spilling all the tea. However, they're spilling the tea so that you can buy direct from them.
That's what
in response to the tariffs. And I want to say that the Chinese government is not innocent, because the Chinese government, all of the money that they get for manufacturing by exploiting those manufacturers and the people who actually make the clothes that the United States imports. They're using that to finance the Janjaweed, which is the Rapid Support Forces, which are killing Black Sudanese people.
Talk about it.
China and Russia is financing.
Talk about it.
The genocide in Sudan.
Talk about
China owns the cobalt mines that is contributing and driving the genocide in the Congo.
Talk about it.
The Chinese government is saying, well, since the European colonization, since you got independence from them, how can I further colonize on the continent of Africa?
Yep.
So, yes.
So the point is not to go directly to the Chinese manufacturer. The point is you don't need that shit.
No.
You don't need it. And take it from one shopper to another. You don't need it. You don't need it. You don't. It's not going to make you feel any better. All
it might make you feel better.
For 1 second.
Babe.
You'll feel better. It will be fleeting. Let me tell you, I get more joy with watering my plants, and it lasts longer. Watching them grow. I get more joy hanging out with young people, my child included, but also other young people sitting around. I get more joy. Yesterday, I was outside without a coat on, and the wind blew, and like one of them beautiful trees with their leaves flew across my face. It brought me so much joy. I get a great deal of joy if I could just make my own lattes. I love an oat milk vanilla latte. Iced. Great joy. I love reading information that makes things connected. And I'm like, whoa, there is great joy that I get from that. I get great joy from my magic wand. Those motherfuckers could have went to space with an actual magic wand. That spaceship was shaped like a magic wand, but it would have given you greater pleasure and maybe even for longer than 8 minutes if you just put a magic wand up against whatever part of your genitalia that you want to put it on.
You said you could have went to space from home.
Space from home.
You saying all of that, but I understand that. And what are you going to tell a child, one of these teenagers out here, listening to the song that say, you can't get no coochie out the queen, put some Lulu on my butt, and that Lululemon tracksuits and sweats and Alo sweatsuits, and that's now the rage. Like young Black kids wearing white athleisure. Like really like yuppie white athleisure wearing Alo, wearing shit from REI.
I would say
what
take it from somebody that has had lots of credit card debt. You don't need that stuff. I can make sure that you get it cheaper, that you find it cheaper if you really want to buy that, but also you don't need it. And the owner of Lululemon says that he doesn't want Negroes shopping here. So I think we should leave. And I'm sure the ALO owner as well don't want no Negro shopping in there either. So let's stop shopping in these places and let's go read something, right? Let's go read about why this rapper thinks that they should create a song called Lululemon, right?
It's not called Lululemon. It's called
we need to rap about Lulu, or all these rappers rapping about all these brands because each and every one of them do.
Yes.
So why do you feel like you need that brand? Why do you feel like you need that clothes? What comes up for you? What's there for you? I wish somebody would have said that to me.
I like it, miss. It's you. That's you. That's you, miss. I like it.
Teenagers don't listen. They're not going to listen to you. Teenage, you have to let them, you know what?
Let them buy the Lululemon.
You know what would be helpful for a teenager? Buy the Lululemon. Go buy it. Go buy it. They will learn. Go buy it and then also slide them a copy of Black Marxism. Go buy it. Because a teenager, you tell them not to buy something, they're going to buy it. They're going to do that very thing. You tell them it's a prefrontal cortex, not formed. What would you say? That's a good question.
Do they know that the owner of Lululemon is a racist?
I would tell them that. But what would you say? I'm a teenager. We'll role play. In the last 5 minutes.
You can't get no coochie out the queen. Put some Lulu on it.
So I love that song. I really want to buy Lululemon. Uncle Ebony, can you please buy me some Lululemon?
Definitely can't buy you any Lululemon. That's number one.
Well, what about if my mama buys me some Lululemon?
Can't get no Lulu out of me.
What about if my mama buys me some Lululemon? Can I get some Lululemon from her? Like, why won't anybody? I want the little thumb thing. Like, that's cute.
The
like
thumb sleeve.
Yes.
You want that because a white person told you that you wanted it.
No, I want it because the singer once said I want it.
And who made her want it? Why do you think she wants it? What are the Black-owned brands that make the same thing that you want? Did you know that the way you dress and your style and your sensibility and your ingenuity is used for free? Do you know you could be making the same as a person who owns Lululemon? If it wasn't for a system of racial capitalism, they steal from you. They steal the way you talk, the way you dress, and they take it and they make billions of dollars. And all you want is just the product that they've made from stealing from you. So they stealing from you twice. Your money when you go give it to them, and your style to go market it and sell it back to you. They stole your style to market it and sell it back to you. Young Black people, y'all are the bedrock of fashion and streetwear, which is Black cultural innovation in fashion. They steal it. Do you see anybody else in the community able to? What your mama got to do to get the Lululemon? How long she got to work to get the Lululemon? You know what I'm saying? So, I want to ask her.
I want it. I still want it.
I understand.
No, that was very convincing. I mean, I wish somebody would have told me that about Abercrombie and Fitch, because the way I was in there in middle school, child, woo!
That was a thing in the hood.
$75 t-shirt. I begged.
It's just repeating itself in the hood. They used to wear the Hollister and the Aeropostale, the Abercrombie,
Limited,
all of that shit. It's just repeat. But who wins?
Yeah.
Who are the winners and the losers in the scenario?
Yes.
It's value and worth. We're no more valuable to the state by wearing those clothes, to your point.
Nope.
It's not going to stop police from accosting
people always
you.
say that. Black people's buying power. It doesn't matter.
Look, has the buying power that Black people have, has Black celebrity, has any of those entertainers, even the ones you like, what has that done to benefit the masses of Black people?
The material conditions, how have they changed with those things being present?
And those people.
Other than being some sort of marker to even a Black president, no shade.
Yeah.
And all shade. How has that changed the material conditions? That Black president they put tanks out on Black people.
I'll read a quote by it's an essay in a book called Anthology called Black Genius, and it's an essay called Simple Living by Bell Hooks, and I'll read an excerpt from it. I guess we'll close out with that.
Okay. She's
talking about how what people don't know is that W.E.B. Du Bois, when he came up with this concept of the talented 10th, which is essentially 10% of the most genius, talented, esteemed, bourgeoisie, essentially Black people, their worth, their existence will then lift up the rest of the 90% of Black people out of poverty, out of racism. It would be the answer to our problems. They would be the leader that would comprise the leadership.
Yeah.
W.E.B. Du Bois, which is real. I am. But what was really interesting is that Bell Hooks talks about the fact that he actually recanted that later. And I used to be like, I had my critiques of W.E.B. Du Bois, which I still do, because he was colorist and he needed, light skin.
He colluded with Margaret Sanger.
He did eugenics, but he did recant. He said, I didn't intend for the talented 10th to make other people feel less than. I didn't intend for it to be like this class of Black people, or that would represent solidarity with the Black masses, to have just a few rich Black people. You know what I'm saying? Good. Or just a few successful Black people, while the rest of everybody else just languish. So she says this: if we return to Du Bois's critique of the Black talented 10th, or the solidarity of Black genius, it is evident that he began to see that the class aspirations of this professional managerial group, which is to say its desire for individual upward mobility within the existing class structure of this society, especially as it pertained to profit-making and status, would ultimately lead it to betray the interests of the Black masses. More than ever before in our political history, Black people in the United States confuse reformist efforts aimed at securing civil rights and equity with agendas for Black self-determination, decolonization, and liberation. I do not in any way want to devalue the place of civil rights reform in our lives, because we would not be where we are today if it were not for those reforms. However, while reforms are important, they do not constitute radical interventions aimed at transforming society in ways that ensure the collective well-being of masses of Black people.
Yes.
This is why when you say, why can't I celebrate Macklemore? Why can't I celebrate?
Nobody celebrating Macklemore, baby.
Yeah, he said something about Sudan. Why can't I celebrate Harvard? What is that celebration doing for the collective well-being of people whose celebrations are curtailed
Let's celebrate when they throw some coin in this bank account. Let's celebrate when this whole structure falls apart. The state.
When we get reparations, yes.
Thank y'all for listening. Support the podcast. Support.
Peace.
Oh, and tell us what books radicalize you.
Yes, hit the comment section.
What books have radicalized? It's the time to study. Right now is the time to study.
It's always been the time.
Always. That's
correct.
It's
always in times like these.
It's time
now
more than ever. We
love you.
Don't
shop at Lululemon. Buy black.
Lululemon, don't buy nothing.
Yeah. But if you can, we live in a capitalist society.
Yes.
Buy black, please.
Buy black.
We can do it.
It's sustainable.
Shift who and what you find valuable.
Yes.
Stop talking all that shit about black-owned businesses and this is why we don't shop black.
Yes.
We don't do shit right. Cut that out.
Yes.
Because Mr. Charlie don't do shit right either.
Okay.
Mr. Charlie got y'all buying $600 bags for $30,000.
Okay.
$10 shirts for $200.
Okay. All right. Adios.
Peace.
Bye.
All right.